You know this moment. It's 9:15 at night. You told yourself you were done eating for the day. Now you're standing in front of the open refrigerator anyway. Here's what nobody tells you. In that exact moment, information doesn't help. You already know the leftover pizza isn't part of the plan. Knowing that has never once closed a refrigerator door. What closes the door is a tool, something you can actually use in the 5 seconds you have before the decision makes itself. That's what this video is. Not more motivation, a toolkit. In the Willpower series, we talked about where willpower comes from. That you already have it because you've used it to graduate, to hold a job, to raise a family. That's true. But knowing you have willpower doesn't tell you what to do at 9:15 p.m. with the fridge door open. That's a different problem. That's not a motivation problem. It's a decision-making problem. And our decision-making system can be built, practiced, and improved the same way you'd build a golf swing or a habit at the gym. Every one of my patients faces a version of this moment multiple times a day, and so have I. The drive-thru window, the office break room, the second helping at the table, the wine with dinner that now becomes 2 glasses of wine. The people who succeed long-term aren't the ones with the most willpower and reserve. They're the ones who've installed tools at those specific decision points. And here's a key distinction. Motivation gets you to start a diet. Decision point tools are what get you through year 3. I'm going to give you 8 tools that you can help and take charge of your eating decisions. Tool number 1, I call it the 10-minute delay, or what I also call urge surfing. Cravings behave like waves, not like a rising tide. They build, they peak, and if you don't act on them, they tend to fall again, usually within about 15 to 20 minutes. This concept comes out of the addiction treatment literature, where it's called urge surfing, and it applies directly to food cravings. The tool is very simple. When the urge hits, you don't fight it and you don't give in. You set a timer for 10 minutes and do something else. Fold laundry, step outside, text a friend. You're not telling yourself no forever. You're telling yourself not yet. Most patients are shocked the first time they try this because the craving that felt like an emergency at minute 1 is often gone or cut down by minute 10. The urge was real, but it wasn't permanent. Think to yourself before grabbing and eating. I'm not saying no, I'm saying not yet. Ask me again in 10 minutes. Tool number 2, the HALT check. Before you eat something you didn't plan to eat, ask one question with 4 possible answers. Am I hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? If you're hungry, genuine physical hunger, if this is the answer, then eat, but choose a protein or fiber first, not the fastest carbohydrate within reach. If you're angry or stressed, food is being asked to do a job it can't do, which is to regulate an emotion. The tool here is naming it out loud. I'm not hungry, I'm frustrated about work. Naming the real trigger short-circuits the eating response more often than people might expect. If you're lonely, food is substituting for connection. The fix isn't a rule about food at all. It's a text message or a phone call. And if you're tired, this is the most common one I see in my clinic. Fatigue looks and feels like hunger because both lower your inhibition and both make quick calories look very appealing. If the honest answer is tired, the tool is not a snack. It's 10 minutes of rest or moving your bedtime up tonight. HALT works because it interrupts the autopilot. You cannot do a 4-question check and eat on autopilot at the same time. The questions themselves create the pause. Tool number 3, if-then planning, or what psychologists call implementation intentions. This is one of the most well-studied tools in all of behavioral psychology, and almost nobody uses it deliberately for food. The research on implementation intentions is consistent. A specific, pre-written, If-then plan outperforms a vague intention by a wide margin because the decision gets made in advance, in a calm moment, instead of in the heat of the moment when your judgment is weakest. The format is always the same. If, in a specific situation, then I will take the specific action. Not I'll try to eat better at the party. Instead, if someone offers me cake at the party, then I will say I'm saving room for the good stuff later and reach for the vegetable tray. The power is in being specific. A vague plan requires willpower to improvise in the moment. A specific if-then plan requires no willpower at all. You're just executing a decision that you've already made. So here's some homework for you on this. Make the if-then a habit. Write 3 if-then plans this week for your 3 most common trigger situations. Keep them in your phone. Read them before you walk into the situation, not during it. Tool number 4, environmental redesign. So behavioral research going back decades, much of it from food behavior researchers studying convenience and visibility, shows the same finding again and again. What you eat is driven less by willpower and more by what's visible and what's convenient. People eat more of what's in sight and within arm's reach, regardless of how hungry they say they are. You cannot out-willpower a kitchen counter with a cookie jar sitting on it. The tool isn't more discipline standing in front of the jar, it's removing the jar from the counter. Put the tempting food out of sight and behind at least one extra step of effort. Put the food you want to eat more off at eye level and 0 extra steps away. This isn't about a spotless, restrictive kitchen. It's about making a disciplined choice the easy choice. So you're not relying on willpower 15 times a day for the same decision when you walk by the cookie jar. Tool number 5, the plate trick or visual portion control. Your eyes measure portion size relative to the plate, not in absolute terms. This is a well-documented visual effect. The same portion looks meager or small on a large plate and a generous on a smaller one. It changes how much people serve themselves and how satisfied they feel afterward. So here's the practical tool. Use a 9-inch plate instead of an 11 or 12-inch plate for regular meals. Fill it using a simple ratio we've discussed elsewhere in the series. Half non-starchy vegetables, a quarter lean protein, and a quarter starch. And let the smaller plate do its silent work on portion perception without a single calorie even being counted. The same logic applies to glassware. A tall, narrow glass reads as more liquid than a short, wide glass holding the same volume. So, if you're watching alcohol intake or juice intake, the tall, narrow glass is doing you a favor. So change the environment. Tool 6, the first 3 bites. Satisfaction from the beginning. The first few bites of anything deliver the majority of the sensory pleasure, flavor, texture, novelty. Bite 10 of the same food delivers a fraction of what bite 1 delivered, even though the calorie count keeps climbing at the same rate. So the tool here, take the first 3 bites of any food slowly, with full attention, no phone, no screen, sitting down. That's where the actual enjoyment lives. After that, you're eating out of habit or plate clearing, not pleasure, and that's exactly the point where a pause, even just to ask, am I still enjoying this or just continuing? That's going to pay off. This is not about eating slowly through the entire meal, which most patients find impractical and they give up on it within a week. It's a targeted tool for the first 3 bites only, which makes it something you'll actually keep doing. Tool 7, identity-based self-talk. There's a difference between saying, I can't have dessert, and saying, I don't do dessert on weeknights. The first is a restriction imposed on yourself, and restrictions invite a mental argument, the classic bargaining that leads to just this once. The second is a description of who you are, and identities are far harder to argue yourself out of in the moment. This is the same mechanism behind why a person who identifies as a runner finds it easier to run on a cold morning than a person who is just trying to run more. The language shifts the decision from a negotiation to just a simple fact about yourself. The tool here is replace I can't with I don't, and replace I'm trying to with I am. A small language shift, but a meaningful, different decision in the moment. And lastly, tool number 8, temptation bundling and pre-commitment. The most reliable moment of decision is the one you remove entirely, ahead of time. This is pre-commitment, making the disciplined choice before the tempting moment ever arrives, when your judgment is clear and the stakes feel abstract instead of immediate. Practically, that looks like packing your lunch the night before instead of deciding at noon what's convenient. It looks like only buying the trigger food you struggle with in single serving sizes, or not at all. It looks like pairing something you're avoiding, a boring workout, with something you only allow yourself during that workout, like a favorite podcast or show, so the two get bundled together. Every decision you remove from the moment of temptation is one less time your willpower has to perform under pressure. I'll wrap all this up now. None of these 8 tools require more discipline than you already have. That's the whole point of the video. You're not broken, and you don't need to find some deeper reserve of willpower you've been missing. You need the right tool in your hand at the right moment. Pick 2 of these. 8, not all 8, just 2. Use them this week at your hardest moments. Once they're automatic, add a 3rd. That's how this actually works in my clinic, and it's how it'll work for you. If you want a printed card with all 8 tools to keep on your refrigerator, the link will be in the description of the video below. I'm Dr. Greg Oliver. I'll see you in the next video.